Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. We're here back at the circuit again for round 8, but this time qualifying 2 for race 2. And if you tuned in yesterday, you would have witnessed certainly a hellacious race. 3 safety cars is what we ushered in yesterday's action, and it was a very busy one indeed. This man tasted glory, but only after a small matter of some stewards' intervention. With so many reports getting filed, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, despite crossing the line and taking victory, it was taken away. Improper use of the push-to-pass system led to him receiving a 10-second penalty, and he would drop down the field. The eventual winner being Alessandro Giusti. Levente Ravesh getting set to go out, but the big story again was Marcus Amand, who did go fastest in his Group A, but unfortunately, he himself, after that collision with Michael Belov, also sustaining a 10-second time penalty. And it was really a hero to, I suppose, zero moment for that of Marcus Amand. Same as well for Antonelli, who is still chasing the championship. And what gets worse for Antonelli is that Martini Stenchorn would lay claim to another podium, P3, after all that fighting from the very back of the grid. And didn't he do it so well indeed? He pretty much sent it all the way and managed to find his way past driver after driver, but we had so many incidents involved in yesterday's action. Well, let's take you through it. Marcus Amand, as I said, 10-second time penalty for the collision with Michael Belov. Josh Dirksen as well receiving a 10-second time penalty. Andrea Kimi Antonelli, we obviously referred to that use of the push-to-pass 10-second time penalty. Ivan Klemenko also receiving 10 seconds of time penalty. Zenzo Scianti with 10 seconds going to his name. Santiago Ramos from RPM also receiving a 10-second time penalty. And incidentally, Joshua Dirksen was also fined 300 euros for unsafe release in qualifying 1 yesterday. So be hoping to obviously not have the same issue this time around. And you can bet your bottom dollar that many of the drivers might have, I suppose, evaluated the racing yesterday. He was, of course, released from the pit box in front of Roman Belinsky in what the stewards deemed to be in a very hazardous fashion, and was, of course, penalised for that. Timotush Kukarczyk had a bit of a tough day at the office yesterday on his debut, and coming into this weekend's action, looking to set a lap in qualifying, failed to do so, and the stewards, after considering the collective test results, they allowed him to start at the back of the grid for yesterday's race. In terms of grid penalties, though, coming in towards the race later on, Hadrian David is going to be penalised with +4 places to add to his grid slot to where he finishes in qualifying today. Sami Megatuniv will also receive a 5-place grid penalty for the huge crash that he was involved in heading in towards the first chicane at the Rettifilio. Giovanni Maschio also receives a 4-place grid penalty as well. So that's the updates, folks. That is what is lined up here today. And we've had a bit of rain overnight as well, as Group B this time will go out first to usher in their opening laps and certainly their qualifying run in order to establish their place on the grid. The man who would go fastest, of course, Rafael Camara in yesterday's affair. Only on that occasion he had an issue, and it was deemed an electrical issue heading down the Seraglio Straight, was slowing down. We didn't see it live on the broadcast, but we caught it in a replay. And we saw it come to a sticky end, certainly for him. Carrasquedo also at the same time was out of the race at that point as well. And there might have been obviously concerns at that time that maybe there was a crash between the two. But indeed, we saw Rafael Camara coming to a steady stop, heading down the Seraglio Straight. And the man who went pole and was trying to usher in yet another splendid Prema performance here at Monza. Of course, home track so important this round for them. Unfortunately, he had to bring the car into the pits for observation. They did bring it back out again just to see it again, but it was then brought straight back in, and you can imagine that they were perhaps just assessing it to make sure that there wasn't any work that needed doing before heading back out onto the track this morning. An RPM car already making its way through, and Noah Stromsted, who has debuted for the team this weekend, certainly was one of the feel-good factors, qualified superbly well in yesterday's session. You see Nikhil Bora, who had a fantastic race as well in his own right for the Trident team, come back on this occasion, managed to achieve a sensational P4, only 1 place behind his season best from race 2 back at Imola. And Owen Tangavellu was also moving his way up the field, the Trident team bringing home some big points this afternoon, and I know that Roman Belinsky is going to be working hard for this one as well. It's been a very busy and fraught season for every single driver out there looking to push for Formula 3 places. As you see the RPM team hard at work, some adjustments being made. Hopefully nothing of too major concern for them, but never nice to be doing that work. Santiago Ramos's car being effectively assessed and worked on here at this point. Quite a plethora of cars coming out of the Ascari chicane, once again making their way down the straight. Martini Stenshorn in picture. You can just see him sending it through towards the final corner at the Kerber Alboreto, and the championship has been brought closer together. 18 points now, the mere gap, after Andrea Kimi Antonelli sustained that 10-second time penalty, of course taking away that race win at his home circuit of Monza. And RHGP gathering another podium with a P3 for Martini Stenshorn in what many would have considered unlikely circumstances, but managed to take the opportunity, which is what's important. Updates on the timings right now. Martini Stenshorn at 1:59.197 out in front. Victor Bernier, who had a sensational run yesterday too, also profited off the chaos from yesterday's race, and the MP Motorsport team successfully achieving a very important P2. Michael Belov going second fastest, and Kamara going first fastest. Belov, of course, looking to recover after the incident yesterday, which saw him hurtle into the gravel trap at the Rogier after a collision with Marco Samand, who would eventually receive a time penalty for that collision. Heading through now the second chicane on the circuit through turns 5. Martini Stenshorn, the Norwegian, leading rookie, and a shoe-in obviously for the rookie championship. Pretty much has his hands all over that right now. What a gallant contender he has been this season, and you can pretty much bet your bottom dollar that he's going to be back there again. 9 podiums this season now after achieving P3 in yesterday's race. Has had 3 pole positions in his time. We've got a massive 4 drivers level on 3 pole positions apiece. And that, of course, being the 2 RHGPs of Martini Stenshorn, Tim Tramnitz, and the 2 Premers of Andrea Kimi Antonelli, and now Rafael Kamara, who joins that illustrious top 4. And no doubt we'll be seeing some major display. Rafael Kamara, who I'm sure will be looking to try and correct the issues from yesterday. Heartbreak, you can imagine, for the Brazilian, who wears his heart on his sleeve and is very passionate about his racing. Really wants to usher in the best results possible for his team. Giovanni Maschio now goes to the top. He, of course, looking to recover after a difficult day yesterday. 1:56 across the line. Stenshorn now goes to the top ahead of Nikhil Bora. How much confidence has that given Bora after yesterday's performance? 1 place outside the podium. Lorenzo Flusha, 4th fastest. He, of course, also in the mix of a bit of chaos yesterday in his own right. Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. scoring his first points of the season as well for Santalok. A young man who is getting better and better all the time and managing his race. Noah Stromstead to the top now. 1:54.172 for Stromstead. He had a spectacular race yesterday. Certainly a busy, well, the qualifying session was probably the highlight for that of Noah Stromstead. Did give a great account of himself, and for a new driver to come in at this point of the season, it is very tricky, especially when you've got seasoned competitors in amongst the action as well. So you see a Trident car just taking a different line out, just taking the escape. And that one belonging to Nikhil Bora. There's a car park developing here, heading through Lesmo 1. Victor Bernier not far behind in amongst all of this either, as we now see them exit out of Lesmo 2, and they will very shortly make their way down Serralio. And Levente Ravesh letting Martini Stenshorn go there. The MP Motorsport following suit in behind, followed by a Santalok car as well. Alessandro Giusti, the eventual winner. Incredible stat for Giusti so far. 3 wins in his last 3 rounds. What a talent this young man has become. The French F4 champion. Back again. We alluded to that champion versus champion fight. Of course, both he and Antonelli starting on the 2nd row in yesterday's race. And this time, Giusti coming out on top, albeit by the stewards' room, but he won't care. It's the big points that they're chasing. And with the end of the season so key in terms of how drivers are going to push for seats in the coming months and coming weeks, in fact, giving a good account towards the end of a season certainly does make all the difference. As we now see the cars come out of the Ascari chicane, there is so much traffic back there as they all fight for places. Stenshaw now heading through the Curva Alboreto. RSGP looking to come back out on top again. The podium was something to savour. Now they're going to look to try and taste something a little better this time, of course. Twice they had winners 2 seasons ago. Hadrian David, who returns this season as well, this time for the Monolite team for the latter portion of this season. He took the victory in race 1 back in 2021, as did Red Bull Academy driver Isaac Hadjar, who's in fact reserving for the Red Bull team this weekend as well. So RSGP, a grand producer of young talent. And we've seen Gabriel Bortoletto, who raced for them last season, just scoop up the F3 championship. And that just gives a lot of confidence, certainly behind the wheel for Martinius Stenshaw. And I think that was the confidence that basically ushered in probably one of his grandest races, if you consider where he started, towards the middle of the field and fought his way through. Started on row 10 in yesterday's race alongside Joshua Dirksen. And really had to put his best foot forward in order to try and gather the points necessary. And as a result, now the gap down to a mere 18, with Stenshaw on the cusp of breaking into the 200s, 196 points to his name now. Unfortunately for Stenshaw, time deleted at this point. In fact, no, car 47 having a time deleted. That's Nikhil Bora, exceeding track limits at turn 5. But the drivers all now starting to try and usher in some better laps. You just see there a little bit of mist just coming off the track in itself. Obviously, it's still very early in the morning. We've alluded, of course, to the temperature deficit between the early goings when it comes to qualifying and racing action later on in the day. But we're starting to get into crunch time now, because with 4 minutes and 10, this is the time for the drivers to start ushering in their better laps. So 150.213 for Stenshaw. Leventi Ravesh third fastest as Bernier comes across the line, second fastest. Giusti back to the top, and Michael Belov goes to the top now as well. So there we have it. Michael Belov starting to kick things up a notch. Premer in third with Lorenzo Flusha. Hadrian David returning here to the circuit where he's won before, fifth fastest. Owen Tangavelu in 6th for the Trident team. Victor Bernier now in 7th. Rafael Camara in 8th. There's still time for improvements, and many of them finding that improvement as well in the first split. An almighty just over 2/10 found by Alessandro Giusti, yesterday's race winner. Looks set to cause a complication here this time around, and once again gaining time in split 2. Giusti on a flyer. Improvements for Lorenzo Flusha. Hadrian David also finding nearly 2/10, just over 1.5 tenths. It's really starting to creep forward here in qualifying 2. Group B getting us underway. Michael Belov finding some reasonable time in split 2 as well. Is starting to get juicy here at the sharp end. Belov, who I'm sure has got that fire lit in his belly, had every chance of taking a podium yesterday, but with the spin after coming together with Marcus Amand, it took that away from him, and now currently sitting up at the top, 149.724 to beat. Giusti in second, just under 2.5 tenths of a second off the top time, as they now send it down towards the straight. Leventi Ravesh, you can just see in the front of picture, he's leading the cars down. Just look at the traffic. Alessandro Giusti has got certainly the MP Motorsport car of Victor Bernier all over his rear right now, just hovering and weaving just to get the heat into the tyres. The drivers know that they can achieve more. And now, with 2 minutes and 15, they've got 2, you would think, fast laps to go. Giusti now goes to the top with a 149.4. Flusha, David goes to the top. Back in a circuit where he's been successful, he notches in a 148.999. It'd be interesting to see where the time is here at this point, because we have got a little bit of water on the circuit. Not too much, but it's damp in places. Fittipaldi battling it out as well as he makes his way through turns 1 and 2. We're not quite racing, but these drivers are fighting for the toe and the track position. It's so important when you've got so many major straights here at Monza, one of the longest straights you'll see on the calendar this season as well. Leventi Ravesh taking them through Rogier. There is Giusti. Camara now second fastest, and just over a tenth in behind Hadrian David. and is improving on his time. Hadrian David's lost time in the second split. Belov starting to move over to the inside as well as he lets cars through. Heading through Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. There you see as well, in behind, and I tell you, he's got a great toe, is Rafael Camara. He's chasing after Martini Estencio and Prema and RSGP, battling it here again at the Italian circuit of Monza. A major weekend for Prema, who are looking to follow up season after season of success. Frederick Vesti, Oliver Rasmussen, as well as Dino Beganovic, Paul Aron, who have been successful here in the past. Camara wants to add his name to the list, as does Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Not forgetting Lorenzo Flusha himself. Flusha and, of course, Camara currently representing you at this point as well. But take a look at this. Justy hot on the heels now of certainly Belov there, Michael Belov, Martini Estencio there also hovering all over the rear of Hadrian David's car as well. Now, is that going to help him or is that going to hinder him? Santiago Ramos also nearly finding 0.4 of a second at a split 3. But it's all when they cross the line that counts. Justy goes third fastest straight away. David still has the top. Stencio now 6th. Bernier 9th. Got Fittipaldi now in 12th as well. And now Ramos to the top. Santiago Ramos, third fastest in collective test 2 on Friday afternoon, and now sees himself at the top. We've got a car, that's Michael Belov escaping to the off-track. A few drivers did that yesterday during the course of the race. They're going to try and give it absolutely everything this time around. They've got one last chance to dance. I can tell you that Nikhil Bora has found 19 thousandths in split 1. Can he find that little bit more? Of course, currently sat in 7th place, which isn't bad for the Trident driver. He's there and in the mix. The time being lost, though, in that middle sector by many of the drivers, it certainly looks like this is going to be the complexion. Santiago Ramos, a scintillating lap, and higher than Hadrian David by over 5.5 tenths of a second. Absolutely extraordinary from Santiago Ramos. Such a phenomenal driver, has proven that he is a cut amongst the best of them. And, has really granted some big results for the RPM team this season. Has certainly led them. We alluded to the bad luck they have had through the course of the championship as well. And despite all their hard work, where podiums have seemed likely, they have eluded them. Ramos only achieving 1 podium this season back at Hungaroring, finishing 3rd. But aside from that, to be mainly P4s. Over the course of the season with 2 P6s as well. But they have scored in the top 10 through a majority of the season, but definitely their most successful run being at Hungaroring. Could they be on the cusp of celebrating again this time around? As the checkered flag comes down, Victor Bernier now 9th as well. Ramos, Camara goes 2nd fastest. Flusha as well 3rd. Stromstead going 3rd. A stellar run from Stromstead. Noah Stromstead for the RPM team. A new acquisition for them. 1 and 3 here in Group B. In qualifying 2 for RPM. And Keith Donegan is going to be absolutely thrilled with that. We spoke about how confident this young man really is. Noah Stromstead. What a talented young driver. And in his first round of asking, of course, he finished runner-up in the Danish F4 back in 2021 with 9 wins in that championship. 10 podiums accrued over that season. He's actually netted together 4 poles during that championship too. Since then, finishing 6th in the Spanish F4, achieving 3 podiums in that in 8 races and 15 races in F4 UAE this year as well. 1 podium, finishing in P9 out of 15 races, but this looks like a very special young man. But Santiago Ramos also adding his name to the top here in qualifying 2, Group B. Rafael Camara finishing in 2nd place as well, back in the sharp end. Of course, it won't be the front row for this young man this time. And all the Group B cars now being asked by race control to come into Parc Fermé conditions as we get set to bring out Group A. And of course, they all have the advantage of the warmer track. Remember, we alternate through qualifying, but RPM, what a performance. And you've got to give them credit, and you can understand why there's plenty of smiling faces out there on the circuit. A massive opportunity for them now in the race. And we've alluded to the few podiums they've achieved this season, but not without trying. They have certainly given everything, and they've got a great unity in amongst them. And of course, I'm sure Adam Fitzgerald is watching on, who of course sustained the injuries at Spa-Francorchamps. He's been recovering well. He was with the team as well in recent rounds, came to the Austrian round at Spielberg. It was great to see him back on his feet, and I'm sure he's cheering his fellow teammates on from where he is. And we do wish you all the best, Adam Fitzgerald. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of smiling faces. They've got Matteo Capietto, of course, featuring in the next group as well, so they'll be hoping that he can bring a huge result for the Irish team. Keith Donegan's going to be absolutely thrilled. But on top, it's his teammate Santiago Ramos, a 1:48.420. And that grants him the top time. But will it be pole position? We'll have to find out, of course, when we finish this next group. Rafael Kamara second, Noah Stromstead third, Lorenzo Flusha fourth, Hadrian David fifth, Martinius Stenchorn sixth, Owen Tangavellu seventh, Nikhil Bora eighth, Alessandro Giusti ninth, and Victor Bernier in 10th place. 11th place going to Emerson Fittipaldi Jr., Jesse Carrasquedo in 12th, Michael Belov in 13th, with Giovanni Maschio 14th, William Carlson in 15th, Matthias Zagazeta 16th, and Levente Ravesh rounds off the drivers in Group B, finishing in 17th. But now, as quickly as that, Group A are going to now make their way out onto the circuit, and it'll be Santiago Ramos's time of 148.420 to beat, or 146.420 to beat. And we will see whether that is something they can achieve this time around. You can understand why the times might not necessarily be at their sharpest right now. Obviously, with the rain coming down, it has added a little bit of dampness, but Santiago Ramos getting a big hug from his team as he enters the pit lane. A fabulous result for them. And Matteo Capietto taking the cars around from Group A. Green flag conditions here, so no concerns on the escape, but the marshals just on hand to manage every situation. There is Capietto, the Frenchman. Back with us this season, scored a podium at Hungaroring as well. We obviously alluded to that being the strongest weekend for the RPM outfit. And we'll be looking to score some big points as well this time around, I'm sure. Lawrence Van Hoopen, who was also squabbling in the midfield. We spoke to him about his close friend Nick de Vries, who has been helping his colleague and friend's career. And of course, Nick de Vries has a fantastic CV, recently racing in Formula One, and obviously we're unsure as to where his future currently lies, but took the time out at Paul Ricard to help out Lawrence Van Hoopen, which was wonderful to see. Nick with a great grasp on young talent, and obviously has been there and done it, has been part of the, should we say, the feeder series growing up and aiming to reach the heights of Formula One, and no doubt sees the same with Lawrence Van Hoopen, as we now see the RPM car, Matteo Capietto, just cutting away to the off-track, heading through Rogier. Tim Tramnitz, of course, we mentioned in behind that of Capietto, had that incident. He was part of that 3-car scrap at Turn 1 where Sami Megatunov missed his breaking point. It was a very, very crazy moment heading in towards Turn 1, but the 3 cars eventually coming together, and unfortunately it led to a major incident. Of course, we saw Tramnitz out of the race on that occasion. It wasn't an easy one for him, as we now see them make their way down the straight. Of course, Matteo Capietto involved in that too, as we now see them make their way down Seraglio, and Ascari coming up after this. Opportunity as well for Kaharczyk, who is back in the car again today. Timotusz Kaharczyk, who competed in Spanish F4, finished P3 in that championship in 2022, recently competing in GB3, and now here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Failed to register a lap yesterday. The stewards granting him a place on the back of the grid after competing in collective tests over the weekend as well. So this time you'll be looking for bigger things. The only way is up for Kaharczyk, as you know, he makes his way down the straight. And they're being led by Sami Megatunov. Esteban Masson, who's going to be looking for yet again big points for the Santalok team. He celebrated some really special results as well. A P6 going to that of Esteban Masson yesterday. Remember, podium at his home race at Paul Ricard. And a first podium, an important podium for the French team at a home track. Something to celebrate, of course, first season in single-seater racing. As we see them come around the Curva Grande. A reminder as well of the cars that we have here in Group A. Ivan Klemenko, who I spoke to earlier on, he was getting prepared for qualifying along with Maya Berg, utilising the skipping ropes. Matteo Capietto as well. Niels Koolin for Van Amersfoort. Got Tim Tramnitz, Roman Valinsky, of course, appearing. I'm sure will be galvanised with the sights of Nikhil Bora in qualifying as well. Kaz Havercourt, who's looking to try and bounce back after a difficult day yesterday, where his rear suspension sustained damage. Rear right tyre came away from the car. Not totally away, but was dislodged, and unfortunately they had to bring the car to a halt heading through Rogier. Enzo Scianti, who was also in the mix of some drama yesterday, looking for a clean run this time as well. Joshua Dirksen, who also sustained some action. Pierre-Alexandre Provost as well is in car number 28. He's back with us. Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who had the win taken away from him. It wasn't quite delight for the Italian driver. And Kramer, who were looking for a winning return. But Antonelli this time taking it. Kaharczyk, then in behind those with Esteban Masson and Sami Megatuniv, Tom Leben, Lawrence Van Hoopen. Marcus Amand, who was the feel-good story of the day, said himself that he had a fantastic toe. And that granted him the extra pace heading down the long straight, and that has become a vital ingredient to a great lap here at Monza, as you probably expect, given the fact we have the long straight here heading down towards Retteville. You also have a long one down to Seraglio, and then the run down towards the Curva Alboreto. You need to make the most of those opportunities. Megatuniv immediately to the top. 2:03.784. Lawrence Van Hoopen now takes that away from him. 2:02.033. Certainly nothing representative here at this point. See them head through the Curva Grande. 1:48.420, the time to beat. And Timotush Kaharczyk. Oh, not another qualifying issue again. This time the car is stopped. Now that is an issue for the young driver. He's got it back going again, but a moment heading around Curva Alboreto. And that leaves him well and truly on his own in clear air. I mean, that could be a twin-headed serpent in a way, because obviously on one occasion you haven't got the traffic of cars, but you do lose out on a slipstream at that point, which many of the drivers do like to grasp if they want to nestle in a faster time. It's very much a chess game when it comes to qualifying here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Lawrence Van Hoopen still out on top, 1.7 seconds clear of Sami Megatuniv. He'll be looking to try and bring his best form as well for the ART team. He, I'm sure, inspired as well by Marcus Amand's performance in qualifying. Of course, Van Hoopen would have been the first of them out yesterday because, of course, part of Group A. They alternate the qualifying sessions, folks. So Group A yesterday for qualifying 1, they went out first. Group B then followed suit in behind. And just a reminder as to how the grid works as well, the fastest driver in either group, should they have the fastest lap overall, and a red flag has been called. A red flag, the stewards have called a red flag here. A front wing, you can just see they're nestled in along the side of the circuit. The drivers having to curtsy themselves around it. So they'll bring the cars into the pit lane. Now, dramatic scenes, the timer has stopped anyway, so still an opportunity for the drivers to usher in times. The 2:02.033 is not going to be a registered lap time for Lawrence Van Hoopen, at least not yet. We will, of course, get qualifying underway again very, very soon. But a piece of front wing left on the track side. Now, I do wonder, was that from Timotush Kaharczyk's car? It could well be. I've got my eyes on the track right now. Certainly, Kaharczyk, in accordance to my timing screen, is still out on track. Also, Ivan Klemenko is as well. So it could be either of those two. Here's a replay. Oh, right. No, it's someone totally different. It's Niels Koolin, unfortunately. Who has just caught the barrier, I think on the right-hand side, and just dislodged that front wing. And will now, I suppose, have to have that changed. And under red flag conditions, the stewards and race control have decided to bring the cars straight back in, and they'll get the circuit prepared for them to go straight back out again. But they've got to wait for Ivan Klemenko as well. Just watching out of my commentary box window, I can see that Timotush Kaharczyk now making his way in. Maya Verg, who has been absolutely sensational this season in her own right, taking part in the Rookie Championship, scored some huge points in the middle of the season, had a fantastic weekend at Spa where she accrued a P7 and a P5, and a P9 at Mugello, Paul Ricard, P10 and P7, and came 9th as well in race 1 yesterday. There's a great chance of once again giving her best account. Currently sat P5 in the timing screen, but as you can imagine, we will see those times come straight back down. But with the cars now coming into the pits, as we see the marshals just cleaning up that debris, and you can see obviously clear damage as the front wing has been ripped away. With the cars now in the pits, it does mean that they're going to have to vigorously make sure those tyres are back up to temperature, because given the fact that they're currently at a standstill in the pit lane, as I see Ivan Klemenko's car come past my commentary box window as well, he's just entered the pit lane. It does mean they will have to try and get those temperatures up in order to nestle in those fast laps, which means we could not yet see, it will be probably the final lap of nestling in fast runs that we will see the best times on the board. Obviously, the drivers tend to be quite tactful with when they apply the power in the car as well. They tend to give a couple of push laps, and they might just let off a little bit, prepare the car again, go again. It's very much a chess game in many ways as they manage the Pirelli rubber that they have out onto the track. The one blessing that they do have in disguise is the fact that Group B went out first. They, of course, have set that fresh Pirelli rubber out on the track, so they'll utilize that as best they can. But still under red flag conditions as we await the marshals to get us back underway. Of course, a very early start this morning. The temperature in itself in the air is 24.2 degrees, 22.6 here on track as well. Humidity relatively high as we now have green flags confirmed by race control. And we'll be getting back underway as the timer starts ticking again. 7 minutes and 40 to go. Lawrence Van Hoopen at the top with a 2:02.033, a 1:48.420 set by Santiago Ramos, the time to beat in order to achieve pole. Who is going to achieve it this time? Who's going to come out on top? Out on track, first of all, comes Maya Verg, Ferrari Academy driver, representing Kick Motorsport here this weekend, as always. We've enjoyed some really good results across the board this season. Sami Megatune, if we just saw him skip through over the curbs, he'll be looking to recover after yesterday's disappointment, and not to mention the penalty that he's accrued, but 5 places will be added as well, not forgetting. So wherever he qualifies in today's session, he will be given a 5-place grid penalty after that collision, as they head now through the Roggia chicane once again. Matteo Capietto, we just saw on screen, exiting out of turns 5 as well, following Sami Megatune through the double right Lesmo corners. Megatune, don't forget, sporting that brand new helmet design that caught the attention of many back at Spielberg. Was wearing it again, his tribute to Delano Van Toff, his good friend and colleague at the MP Motorsport team, who are forever racing for Delano as they head down the Seraglio Straight here at the Temple of Speed, as we now see the cars bunch up again. A familiar sight to what we saw earlier on in qualifying, as Megatune dances past and tries to pursue, obviously, his track position in order to try and nestle in a fast lap. Now, 5 minutes and 50 to go. Opportunity here to get 2 fast laps on the board before the end of the session. They might be able to squeeze 3 in, but remember, they've got to try and factor in the time management. Megatune, who does not have the benefit of a tow here at this point, will be going it alone here. In behind Kaz Havercourt, will be in behind him and looking to try and follow suit. A 2:02.033, the time to beat as they hurtle down now towards turn 1. once again is qualifying now, well and truly back underway. Laurens van Hoopen, the time to beat Tramnitz in third as well. Marcus Amann back in fourth place. As Megatunov skips over the curves. Take a look at the first sector splits already. Now we're seeing them drop into the 2.4 second improvements. 3.7 gained already. In places Meyerberg. In fact, Meyer is actually the highest driver on the circuit right now. She's already going through Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2, and she's marshaled in a 3.7 second improvement in sector 2. We've also got Kaz Havercourt, 4.1 in split 2 as well. They're all coming down quite aggressively here. Marcus Amann, arguably the most impressive, coming out of split 2 as well. Looking to come back after the disappointment of yesterday. Remember, front row, he started, he topped Group A in fantastic fashion, and now once again seems to have marshaled in an increase in performance still as they head down the Seraglio Straight. If you're in the tow at this point, you're in a very good position, and Amann still going to work here. Surely he can't do it again. Not here at Monza. They venture now in towards Ascari. Meyerberg, 6.6 marshaled inwards, 7.2 gain for Kaz Havercourt. Amann notching together a 7.5, but not as impressive as Laurens van Hoopen's 7.8. Or either that of Tim Tramnitz's 7.6. He's also finding some rapid improvements as they head down now in towards the final corner at Kerber Alboreto. Meyerberg coming up towards the line. She goes fastest with a 1:54.05. We're still a little way off where we were at the top with Santiago Ramos, but Berg putting in those improvements nonetheless across the line. Sami Megatunov goes fastest as well. We've got Kaz Havercourt second fastest. Matteo Capietto, he was third fastest, now fourth as Shanti goes through. We've got Laurens van Hoopen now up to second. Tom Leben, seventh fastest. Antonelli goes to the top here as well. 1:49.077. It's coming downwards. We're not far from the 1:48s already, and Antonelli's time nearly 3.5 tenths better than that of Sami Megatunov. And Antonelli has found more time in split 1, as has Van Hoopen, but not as much as Joshua Dirksen, who currently sits 5th. Nearly 1.5 tenths found in that first split alone as they come through towards the Rogier chicane. A car just moving away, just onto the off-track ever so slightly. Not quite sure who that was necessarily as I had a look at my timing screen at that point. Antonelli now has found just over 2.5 tenths of a second. There's Antonelli on your screen as he makes his way out of the Rogier. Tim Tramnitz in front of him as well. Antonelli, who I'm sure is hurting after yesterday. Had a tough qualifying in the morning and managed to recover the, should we say, recover the places that he wished he would have had at the first place. Only then to receive a 10-second time penalty and to lose the victory at his home track of Monza. Had prior success in the Italian circuit, his best weekend in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, being at Mugello, a P2 and a P1. It was true Antonelli excellence at Mugello on that occasion. A bit of magic at the Italian circuit. He'll be hoping for more this time as well, and has marshaled in an impressive 6 tenths already. Looking to try and contest the time that was set by Santiago Ramos, and this does put him in the picture for a potential pole position. Antonelli now, he's going to be looking to take it, but first we've got other cars crossing the line. Havercourt goes fastest, 1:48.6. Capietto, 1:48.3. And already the time has been beaten. Capietto's on pole, but across the line, Marcus Amann back to the top. Tim Tramnitz, a 47.9. Antonelli second fastest. Not enough to topple Tim Tramnitz, who breaks into the 1:47.932s. 92 thousandths faster than Andrea Kimi Antonelli, and the RACE GP Prema saga burns on here at Monza. Amazing. RACE GP, of course, celebrated success 2 years ago. Of course, with that of Hadrian David being part of the team on that occasion too, who we saw in our first group that went out, that being Group B. And now RACE GP have a chance of once again nestling home a massive result this time around after achieving a P3 with Stenshorn in the very chaotic race that was yesterday. Don't forget Isaac Hadjar, Red Bull Junior, that managed to notch together the Race 2 victory that year too, but already improvements being shown as we have 43 seconds still to come. Tramnitz currently sat on top. Antonelli has lost a little bit of time in split 2, but he's not out the window. Knows he needs to find it now because it's the last chance here. Last chance saloon here at Monza. But losing time, any of the cars, as Tramnitz marshals in an impressive 3.5 tenths near enough. Antonelli has found just over 2 tenths. This is sensational. This is brilliant. Here at Monza now, we're seeing the two top guns in the team's championship contesting here at Monza, trying to fight over the pole places. Marcus Ammann take nothing away from him. Third fastest in Group A here, as we see battling and squabbling now further up, or further down the field in fact. Esteban Masson, as the checkered flag comes down now, we see the cars come across. Havercourt now down to fourth. Roman Belinsky, third fastest. What a visit from Roman Belinsky. Here comes Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Tramnitz, Antonelli's got pole. Antonelli on top here so far. Tramnitz in second place, but Roman Belinsky as well bringing it back. But the Italian who lost out towards the tail end of the race, after the issue with the push to pass, you saw a nod of the head there from Antonelli. How important is that to his weekend? And Prema, in order to try and fight back after losing out in dramatic fashion in the stewards' room, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, take a bow. The hype is real about this young man. What a lap. Nearly 2.5 tenths of a second faster than Tim Tramnitz. And a stellar showing. And once again, it's Prema on top here. Twice now they've taken pole position this weekend. Rafael Camara did it yesterday. It's Andrea Kimi Antonelli this time around today. A stat he will celebrate. 4 pole positions. The most pole positions out of anybody this season. Now all he needs to do is convert that to a race win and send Italy into raptures like he did yesterday. Only this time I'm sure he would like to make sure that he takes the victory home with him this time. And his home track. If you ever go into the paddock here at the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, the queues outside Andrea Kimi Antonelli's Prema garage is always packed to the rim of people. The Mercedes Academy driver, who many have stated could be in line for a Formula 2 seat next season. There's been lots of talk on social media, but we're going to do all the talking this time, because Andrea Kimi Antonelli on top here in emphatic fashion, beating back Tim Tramnitz in second. Roman Belinsky, what a performance from Belinsky, the pole in third place for Trident. Joshua Dirksen in fourth, Lawrence Van Hoopen fifth, Maya Verg in sixth, Sami Megatunev in seventh place, Kaz Havercourt in eighth, Marcus Ammann in ninth, Matteo Capietto finishing in 10th place. Timotheus Kaharczyk as well, finishing down in 11th, managed to marshal on the time, had none of the issues that he had yesterday, bar of course that little stutter he had when the car slowed down on the track. Pierre-Alexandre Provost as well, finishing in 12th, Tom Leben coming home in 13th, Esteban Masson notching together 14th, Ivan Klemenko 15th, Niels Kuhlen in 16th, Enzo Scianti in 17th place. But Antonelli's time, a 1:47.483, and a massive second faster than Santiago Ramos's best time in Group B, who went out first. But Group A, they take the plaudits this time. It'll be Andrea Kimi Antonelli starting on pole, and his Group A filed in behind him on his same row of the grid. Group B will then occupy the opposite side of the grid with Santiago Ramos up at the front end. It's going to be an Antonelli pole, front row, alongside him Ramos for RPM, who have a great chance with the positioning of their cars coming into the race this afternoon. Matteo Capietto didn't do a bad job at all, 10th place in amongst all this, but there's your pole sitter. It's Andrea Kimi Antonelli, and Prema looking to try and chase yet another victory, following on from Dino Beganovic and Paul Aaron in yesterday's action. In last season's action, I should say, in fact, 2022, of course, kicking off. They very nearly had it yesterday. But folks, make sure you join us, of course. Lots of action to come. This afternoon we go racing at 2:15. It's been a pleasure bringing you all the action. I've been George Morgan. We've been the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. We'll see you this afternoon when we go racing at Monza. Goodbye.